Upper Echelon is brought to you by Deloitte for innovative thinking and thorough strategic planning. Turn to Deloitte. Our guest in Upper Echelon this week, Nolo Letele, is Executive Chairman of MultiChoice South Africa. Nolo, you've had a very interesting career within the Naspers Group, being involved in particularly the pay TV side of the business, the precursor to DStv and MultiChoice, MNet, in the very, very early days.
Yeah, I have. But first I must commend you. You pronounce my name perfectly.
I'm from Kimberley, so.
Okay, that explains everything. But yes, I mean, it's been a career that, when I look back, that I really think has got so many highlights, And yeah, I don't regret a minute of it.
Looking at your involvement in MNet and MNet as a platform and as the precursor to DStv, was it as simple as looking at what was happening overseas and the shift from analog to digital, from analog to satellite, or was it a more difficult transition within MNet?
On a personal note, is that right? Look, for me, it was a massive sort of quantum leap, if I can call it that, because I came from an environment where I worked for a very small radio station, and in collaboration with MNet, then that was in Lesotho. We worked together and started the first TV station in Lesotho, which I can take credit for. But and then I came across to MNet, which was a whole new world, for me, in scale, in call it. It was foreign to me. I'd never ever worked in an environment like this. Yeah.
And learned very quickly.
And learned very quickly, of course. The culture has always been to sort of throw you in at the deep end, which is good, because that way the ones who swim are the ones that make it. Yeah.
Is that very much ingrained in the Naspers corporate culture?
Absolutely. Look, from time to time you'll get a helping hand, but generally when you have a brief, you must figure out how to make it work, and you must run with it.
How much pressure was there, and has there been from head office, from the likes of Chris Becker? I mean, this is the engine of the group. This is the flagship, I guess, of the group. This has been for 10, 15, 20 years.
Yeah. And when you say how much pressure for what? What do you mean?
From upper management.
To do what?
To perform.
To make things happen. If we're talking right across MNet, then DStv, MultiChoice. Look, I think the pressure to perform is enormous, and to deliver, it's enormous. In fact, Chris Becker, I was fortunate that I kind of understudied the guy, for a period of time, and I learned a hell of a lot from him. But invariably, you were asked, how long is this going to take to deliver? It might be a business plan or whatever, and you say, I'll have it within 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And then he says, fine, I want it on Monday, So you choose. You may have to work day and night. I often had to do that. But that's good, it's good for you.
And how do you take that pressure and almost kind of transition it down within your own organization that you've been leading for so long?
What I learned and I then implemented and executed is you then begin to realize that you run a business, and our business is very much like that, and cut it up into projects. We are very much project-based in anything we do. It could be just a customer service thing, but we call it and scope it as a project. Then it has a finite delivery timeline which people must adhere to, and that way everyone has their eye on the delivery date and the quality aspects of the project. So that, I think, was a massive learning for me and for the organization, because my job was to actually cascade it down. Yeah.
Coming from an engineering background, did that help?
It did. I think I'll probably get shot down when I get back. But no, I think engineers are very disciplined, and have learned how to scope and spec any activity, and have very finite measurables, so that you know exactly what you're meant to deliver and how to get there.
Going back to Lesotho very briefly, do you go back often?
I do. I try to go there once a month. You know, I still have friends, relatives, and so on. Yeah, so I do that a lot. Yeah.
Looking at pay TV as a business, and having had the pleasure of speaking to Koos Becker very recently, he gave the view that the window for a competitor to a traditional satellite television operator, not only in South Africa, obviously the kind of travails of Top TV are very well documented, but
Yes.
globally that window perhaps closed a decade ago, and that within the past 10 years any new entrant has really struggled. Is that a view that you subscribe to?
Yeah, absolutely. I do. If you think about it, the way technology is moving, the way consumption of media, is moving, which is now really online based. For anyone to begin a business that's satellite delivery based is a massive investment. People often underestimate that. We've went through a very deep well in terms of our losses before we turn profitable, and to start a new satellite business today in a market which is increasingly less linear. People don't just anymore just sit and watch television that's been fed to them in one direction. It'll become that much more difficult. I think that's a global trend. I agree with him on that.
That threat to pay television, that threat to linear programming coming from the internet, we can only look at the US and see how quickly that market is moving with things like Hulu and Netflix.
Yes.
Is there a sense of, I would hasten to call it paranoia, but is there a sense of real deep concern within the business that we need to innovate, we need to out-innovate this?
No, absolutely. And it's a very heightened sense. Even call it paranoia. I think that's a very good word. I mean, it occupies our minds on a daily basis. We ourselves know that we cannot stay in the satellite, space forever. We have to morph. We have to transform and actually embrace IPTV and broadband and what it can deliver. That's the future.
I guess it's that same kind of culture that Steve Jobs worked so hard to instill in Apple, where for Apple to keep succeeding, it has to almost kill its most profitable flagship product every couple of years.
Yeah, and he did that well. But yeah, that's Steve Jobs. He's one of a kind.
Nolo, box office, is that something that took a long time to just state within MultiChoice, or was it an obvious no-brainer, a quick project, a quick win?
Box office. Look, box office took a while for us to implement. The technology had to be ready, the decoders had to be capable, and the business model itself is still a work in progress. It's just one of those things that the studios, they take the lion's share. So we are seeing it more as a value add than anything else. Until such time as you can actually access 10,000 or 100,000 titles, and that can only happen online. Until such time, we will continue to provide box office as a value add, just for the stickiness of keeping our customers.
You mentioned the studios there. To what extent do the studios and your content partners and content providers almost try and shape the direction that you're going in? Are you very beholden to them, or is it more collaborative effort?
Look, the studios, I don't think they hold the power, to be honest. Theirs is basically to capitalize on any possible, call it platform, whether it's box office or video rent or sales or pay TV or free to air, and nowadays, online, etc. So the studios, that's what they do. I think the power still sits with the person that owns the customers. Yeah.
Mobile television hasn't really taken off. We saw maybe 3, 4, 5 years ago
Yes.
there was a lot of hype around mobile television. It was going to
Yes.
revolutionize the way we consume,
True.
and that really hasn't lived up to that hype. Although Drifter and all those devices are suddenly becoming a lot more commonplace. You'll go to the cricket and you'll see people sitting using their
Yes.
Drifter. You'll see people in places of work. Is that more kind of mobile television by stealth?
No, I don't think so. You've just got more devices to watch it, and it's far more enjoyable. You mentioned Drifter. What about the Walker, which is a nice, a bigger screen, almost like the sort of Samsung application, but sorry, the tablet. It's hugely popular, and you're right. I mean, people. I was just at the Nedbank Golf the weekend, and people, would be sitting around and they'd be watching, the game. And seeing something that they could not see with their eyes because they are somewhere else, and see maybe a different pair of players. So, is it mobile television by stealth? No, I don't think so. Mobile television is here, as you know, and again, mobile television for us is a value add. There's no business model in the world where, as a standalone service, it's making money.
And I guess in terms of Supersport and the sport programming, probably the best use case currently for mobile television.
I think so. Look, for news as well, people watch. But yes, I guess it would be for your sports. It's probably the best use case. You're right. But yeah, it's complementary to DStv basically, because you can travel with it. You can stand in a queue and watch. If you're killing time somewhere, you can watch something. Yeah.
Nolo, what about regulation? Chris Becker has been quite outspoken over the past couple of years about regulation and perhaps over-regulation. What are your views on regulation where South Africa finds itself?
In the same breath, I would say that regulation, it's intensifying everywhere in the world. So it's almost what you call a necessary evil. In South Africa, probably even more so, you see regulation. The problem, I think, that in South Africa is regulation is actually hampering progress, simply because technology and everything is moving that much faster. Innovation and the opportunities for innovation are there and could be happening much quicker in this country. But because we're kind of paralyzed by, regulators wanting to regulate first before allowing the industry to then experiment and perform and implement and innovate. And it's taking far too long, and that's why we're lagging today. For instance, in internet penetration and in broadband, we've probably lost about 7 or 8 places in Africa alone because of the slow pace of regulation. So whereas in countries that are really, really fast moving, normally the industry is allowed to play around. The regulator says, play, experiment, until I tell you to stop. Because by then it's clear, what's emerging and where the pattern is going. So the regulator is then able to say, right, this is how we will do this. Here they say, don't do anything at all until I'm ready. And that way we're all kind of paralyzed. So that needs to change, I think.
What does DStv look like in 2 or 3 years' time?
Ask me what it looks like in a few months. I'll tell you a lot. A lot will have changed. No, DStv. I mean, it's a very fast-moving train, and it's because we're embracing a lot of new concepts. Look, the decoder of the future itself will be very different. You'll have a decoder that will be connected online back to our head end, and as I mentioned earlier, then you can access content online.
Tens of thousands of
movies. And also, I suppose, the recorder is one thing. The content, as we receive it itself, I think will be less linear. People, I think prime time is going to die. People will be able to just watch anything, anytime. I think you've heard this before. It's finally happening. Yeah. So DStv, the name says DStv, but it's not. You don't unpack that and say it means digital satellite television. No, it's much more than that, and it's embracing a number of platforms now, online, satellite, terrestrial, and yeah, we want to be able to continue to provide our content. That's our strength, and our service. That's our strength.
Just looking at a couple of bigger picture issues. Obviously, you've been one of the faces and voices of, I guess, one of the more successful broad-based empowerment plans in the country, Phuthuma Nathi. What does empowerment mean to you, Nolo Letele?
Look, empowerment for me means that we must strive to let in a broad base of black people across the spectrum, the economic spectrum as well, so that even the man in the street, your gardener, etc., can partake. And this is what we achieved. We with our Phuthuma Nathi scheme, we have 120,000 shareholders, which is great, and it was actually quite a novel idea at the time, the first of its kind. So that's been a great success story. But more of this kind of thing needs to happen. It should not just be for the few.
How do we get more? How do we do more?
In the country, look, I think more and more I think a lot of players have to come, to the party. The financiers, the banks, the companies themselves, instead of a private invitation, to a black consortium to come in and partner. It's to open it up, basically, and just make a call out there for the public to come forward that qualify and partake. So it's about structuring these schemes so that they can be affordable. And this can be done. It can be achieved. And then it becomes a wonderful story for the country, because, not enough people that were disadvantaged have a stake in the economy. Yeah.
Final question, and I'm starting to ask pretty much all our guests in upper echelon this. What motivates you?
What gets me up? Every day. Plenty. I suppose for me, I just have this burning edge, to function, to perform, and to create new goals and to pursue them. That will never stop. I'm just fortunate because I love this environment, that I'm in, which is, call it pay TV, DStv, because of the innovation that's taking place. And it's so dynamic that often when I was, I'm executive chairman now, so maybe it's a slightly different perspective. But when I was group CEO for 12 years, sometimes you'd get up, go to work, and not know what's going to happen that day. And that's what made it so fresh and exciting.
Nolo, it's been an absolute pleasure. Nolo Letele is Executive Chairman of MultiChoice. And Upper Echelon was brought to you by Deloitte for innovative thinking and thorough strategic planning. Turn to Deloitte.